Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Listen, this has been a morning. Can you hear me now? Somebody say yes. All right. Listen, this has been a morning. Like I was saying, this morning I was kicked out of Facebook. And so I had to go through this whole thing with Facebook to get back. Okay, yay. All right, I had to go through this whole, there we go. All right, so I had to go through this whole thing with Facebook to get redone because I guess somebody was trying to get into Facebook or it was just a precautionary matter because I show up more. Good morning, T. Good morning. Good morning, Pep. Good morning. Okay. Yes, ma'am. We got our volume back. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So much has happened this morning. Listen, it's Self Validation Friday. We're talking about the law of vibration this morning, you guys. Um, and I guess, we gonna make this happen because listen, we know that this week, right? We're talking about starting to live, stop living your life out of vague hope, right? And really start to living in your divine truth. Okay. The law of vibration. This is the universal law that we're going to take on today. Okay. The law you speak to yourself sets the tone for your vision, you guys. So I want you to know that you are the strategy. So trust that. You are the strategy. So trust that. Listen, why? Because I've worked with many of people who have done all the things. They set the goals, they built the routines, they faced their fears, and they still feel like an imposter. They still feel like an imposter in their own lives. Not because they're not capable, not because they're not capable, but because their inner voice is still narrating from an old, unhealed version of them. So, this session is truly about reclaiming the tone of your vision by really transforming how you talk to yourself, how you talk to yourself. Because if your goals are shaped by who you're trying to prove you are, you'll keep building a life that feels like a performance, you guys. If you keep creating goals and a vision that are shaped by who you're trying to prove you are, guess what? You'll keep building a life that feels like a performance, right? If your vision is shaped by who you are, who you are, you'll move with clarity, peace, and power, you guys. Listen, this session will help you identify the vibration of your inner voice by really but transformation we know happens when you consistently speak to yourself in a way that reflects your highest, best self, your highest identity, right? And truly the person that God created you to be, you guys, not from your history. Not from your history. We know that God dwells in our presence. Our divineness is more powerful in our presence. All right. So when we can speak from this present place of being, right, and we're all safe right now, right, and not from our history, we can really use this universal law to help to change, to transform our life. All right. So don't just change your language, change the energy behind the language, okay? Am I performing or am I being who I am? All right. Self-validation is how you shift from performance to truly purpose, you guys. Listen, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I want to welcome you back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little, licensed clinical therapist, right? That is me. I'm Dr. Sheila Little. If you're new here, it is Self Validation Friday. And today we're doing something revolutionary, you guys. We're tuning into this inner voice, but we're using a universal law to truly hold ourselves accountable or give ourselves insight about maybe this disconnect that we're feeling between what we want, right, and what we're experiencing. Not the critic inside, right? We're tuning into this inner voice, but not the critic on the inside, right? Um, not to criticize it, right? But to reclaim this voice, you guys, because the way you talk to yourself, it really sets the tone for how your future unfolds. So the way you talk to yourself, it truly sets the tone for how your future unfolds. Listen, tell me how y'all doing this morning. How are you doing this morning? Drop a word in the chat. I feel resilient. Like I said, I got up, I went to set everything up. It's Good Friday, so happy Good Friday to everybody. I'm excited about this conversation. We're talking about the law of vibration and all of that. And I get to my page and it's down. Like, it's like, no, we're not letting you in. I fixed that, go to come on, and my mic is messed up. Like the microphone is not working, which I guess, spilled over into this session. And guess what? I still feel good, right? Because what I understand is that second law, the law of expansion. The more I show up, the more I get excited, the more I'm prepared, right? The more things are going to what happen to um trigger the old wounds in me, the maybe the inner critic in me, right? And because I'm living in this law of vibration, Pep said he's feeling proactive. I'm glad, Pep. I'm glad, Pep. Right? Because I'm using this universal law of vibration, I'm very mindful about how I'm approaching this law of expansion, right? Still being excited. And when all of that happened, I'm like, okay, well, this show must is is going to change some people's perspective. It's going to really anchor this week. We know that this week we're talking about seizing your life um with the plan, you guys. And we talked about prioritize. Well, we know this month series is seizing control of your life with a plan. And last week we talked about prioritizing your values, but this week we're talking about these universal laws, right? And I wanted to introduce these universal laws in a very um yeah, integritous way, right? So we can understand that life just isn't about like what you do, is how you do what you do. Life ain't about what you say, it's how you say what you say. So we can get more in alignment, right? And really start to experience more of the life that we were called to experience while also managing life's ripples, right? The ups and downs. Because life is life and it's happening and we can't control some areas of our life, you guys, but if we understand these laws, we definitely can tuck ourselves into that. So, like this morning when that situation happened, I know that I'm working to make the life lessons a stakehold, right? Like a very, very prominent show on to my to my clientele, to my community and things like that. And that's an expansion for me, right? That's an expansion. I'm used to being in brick and mortar. So to show up every day on this internet and to create these series, right? That's expanding. So what is that going to trigger? That's going to trigger my nervous system to say, hey, that's unsafe. And even the threat, right? The threat of somebody coming in trying to log into my Facebook. That has never happened before, right? So even that threat could trigger what? Oh, you're getting exposed more, you're being seen, which I want you guys to know is one of my wounds, right? This whole being playing small, right? And finally saying, hey, you can step out here, you can do this thing, and giving myself the permission to do that over the last 7 years, I've expanded and I've used this law of expansion to really change the way I talk to myself so that I can introduce this law of vibration, right? And start to truly resonate and manifest what I want, you guys. Okay, does that make sense? Listen, who this session is for? Who this session is for? This session is for you if you consistently second guess your choices. Okay, if you're highly capable, but you still doubt if you're truly ready, and if your goals are shaped more by fear of failing than by faith in your identity. If your goals are shaped more by your fear of failing than the faith in your identity. Okay, listen, this is for you if your outer actions look bold, but your inner voice still whispers that it's not enough. You know, a lot of us, and we see this on social media, a lot of us are performing, right? Uh, you know, we see people posting and, saying these things, but on the back end, right, they're struggling. They're struggling in their personal life, or they can show up in their relationships. It may not even be in social media, but how we show up for our kids or our mate or whatever. But when we're by ourselves, right, the things that we talk to ourselves about, the words that we use, how we judge ourselves when we look in the mirror, and things like that, right? That is the law of vibration because what we're going to understand is that it's so important to be present with you the way that you're present with others. It's so important to speak to yourself in a way that is comforting and compassionate and loving, right? Because of this universal law that is true, right? That is true. That is undeniable, right? And we can't get past that. And this, although we're going to tie biblical wisdom into this, this really has everything to do with how God created us to be, right? How God created us to be, but more importantly, the experiences that you're having. And if you're questioning your stuckness, if you're questioning your not enoughness, if you're questioning the cause and effect, which is what we talked about yesterday, like, why am I not experiencing what I want to experience, the fulfillment and all of that? Well, this law of vibration is what comes in, okay? Listen, um, our okay, so our quote today is you are the strategist, right? And your self-talk is the sacred script your future is listening to. All right? You are the strategist. We know what a strategy is. A strategy is like how am I going to do something, right? You are that strategist that's really preparing your life, right? That's really creating your life. Whether you want to accept that or not, as an adult, you are the orchestrator of your life, right? You are the person in the front conducting the band, all right? Flutes go, band go, drums hit, right? You are that individual, all right? And and what this quote is saying is that you are the strategist and your self-talk is the sacred script for the future. For your self-talk is the sacred script your future person is listening to. Okay. So as you're talking to yourself, guess what? You are creating the experience, right? Because everything you're saying to yourself in this moment has to manifest itself. It has to vibrate out in some way, shape, or form, right? It has to be expressed energetically, which then in a then which then manifests, physically, right? And so the more mindful we can be about how we speak to ourselves and the language that we use, then the more that ripple, that cause and effect when it comes back, the more it will feel in alignment to the person that we are. Okay, if that makes sense, put a one in the chat for me. All right, listen. One woman I worked with, one woman I worked with had all the tools, you guys. She had all the tools. She had the solid vision, she had the routines and her plans, right? The skills to execute. But every time it got close to a launch for a business, she froze, right? Not because she wasn't ready, you guys, but because her inner voice said, who do you think you are to lead like this? Who do you think you are to do this, right? Okay, that's when we can trace back the patterns, you guys. Listen, day one, we uncovered the story. So she had been taught that humility meant hiding, right? So she had been taught to hide. Day two, we named the fear, right? So she was afraid of being seen and rejected. Okay, so she was afraid of being seen and rejected. Day three, she confronted the obstacle, right, which was her past failures that whispered to her, play it safe, don't get out of line, stay within the line, right? Play it safe. And then on day four, which was yesterday, right? The patterns always helping others build, but never really investing into her own voice, right? So she was always helping others build, but never really investing in her own voice. And on this day, this law of vibration on Self Validation Friday, which is the inner critic, right? She rewrote the narrative, right? She rewrote the narrative. She stopped building from fear of being too much, and really started affirming that she was already enough, that she was already enough. And this shift in self talk didn't just change her mood, you guys, it changed her magnetism. It changed how she showed up, okay? Because the law of vibration doesn't respond to perfection. It responds to authenticity and alignment. It responds to authenticity and alignment. So what is this law of vibration? First, I want you to know the difference between the law of vibration and the law of attraction, okay? All right, because we hear this law of attraction a lot, and that's not a law that I talked about this week. I talked about the law of belief. I talked about the law of expansion. I talked about um, the law of polarity. I talked about the law of um, cause and effect. And today I'm talking about the law of vibration. But I didn't talk about this law of attraction, which most people talk about. But I want you to know the relationship between this law of attraction and this law of vibration. All right. So the law of vibration says that everything in the universe is made of energy, right? And it vibrates at a specific frequency, including, you guys, your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, your words, and your actions. But everything has energy. That's why I say you're in relationship with everything. This mouse has an energetic vibration. It's It's vibrating though so slow that we can call it a solid matter, right? It's vibrating so slow. Your furniture has a vibration, right? Everything in life has a vibrating or a vibrational energy that's holding together or separating it, right? So everything is energy. All right, everything is energy. So this law is saying that everything has energy, including, guess what? Your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, your words, and your actions, right? So you don't get what you want, you guys. You get what you are in resonance with. All right. So because everything is vibration, I'm gonna go back to that analogy I gave a long time ago, which was the radio station. The radio station is on what? Frequencies. Okay. So if my beliefs is on a certain frequency, or if my thoughts are on a certain frequency, then I'm only going to be able to tune into a certain what? A certain radio station. So if 107.1 was happy, right? And then 93.7 was doubt, right? And my thoughts were doubtful, then I tuned into 93.7. I think I said 93.7. If my thoughts and beliefs are hopeful, then I'm tuned into, right, 107.1, right? Because that is the relationship that we have to this universe, right? So we're corresponding with this universe in how we think, how we feel, what we believe. And so we want to get into alignment our thoughts, our beliefs, our words, and our actions so we can align to that place, right, in this world, in this space. Okay. All right. So this law says your inner frequency, your dominant thoughts and feelings really set the tone for what you experience in your outer world. All right. So if your self talk is full of fear and guilt and shame, then you're vibrating at that level. Okay, you're vibrating at that level. And then life will reflect that back to you. Life will reflect that back to you. So again, this is why emotional intelligence is so important. And I'm going to put the link for the class because I really think that even if you don't want to go into the coaching labs, you may want to take this emotional intelligence class because we talk about these paradigms. The paradigm is what? Victim. Okay. So if I'm in this law of vibration and I can't trust people and life is unsafe and things like that, that is the because that's how I see the world, that's what I'm going to experience. Even in the most kind people, even in the most loving people, I may experience that aspect of them. A part of it is because I believe it's so, and so my reticular activation system is going to what? Show me that. It's going to show me when they make a mistake or when they may be deceiving, even though this person may be honest and integritous and loving and supportive and things like that, because the person isn't perfect, right? And nobody's perfect, and we don't, yeah, nobody's perfect. Me, if that is my belief or my paradigm, when I meet this absolutely amazing person that is like 70/30 or 80/20, 20% low vibrating and 80% high vibrating, I may, right, attached to the low vibration of this person, right? And so we may get into it a lot because that's where I'm vibrating from. The same with the duty, right? So if I have a duty paradigm of what I should do and how I should be living and all of that, then I may meet people that match that type of mindset. So if I was a female that felt like, oh, I should be domesticated and I should keep my head down and things like that, then I may have friends, I may have mentors, I may attract dating partners, mates, and things like that. And even from the people I'm familiar with, they may look at me in these more traditional roles, like, oh, I thought you did this, or don't you believe that, right? They will keep me in this box, not because of who they are, but because of my vibration. All right. So how does that differ from the law of attraction? So the law of vibration is the primary law. All right. So it said, if your self talk is full of fear, guilt, and shame, you'll vibrate at that level and life will reflect that back. Well, the law of attraction is a secondary law. It's secondary to this. It said you attract experiences, people, and opportunities that match your vibration. All right. Like attract like. So again, I'm vibrating at a certain way. That's the law, right? And then the second law of attraction comes back. So that's the circle. So this law is based on the idea that you draw in what you're emotionally aligned with, all right? But it depends on the law of vibration. It depends on the law of vibration to really work, you guys. So you can say, you want abundance, you want love, you want clarity, you want purpose. But if you're vibrating, you guys, from fear, from lack, from unworthiness, that's what you'll still experience energetically calling in. Okay, that's what you would come back. That's what you will be attracted to, because remember, attraction is the pull in, the vibration is the push out. All right, so these two laws, they work together. So even though I didn't go into the law of attraction, I just want you to know that there's a primary law that's way more important, and a lot of us are not attracting what we want because we're not using that primary law, which is the law of vibration. All right. So here's the thing. Here's how it applies to this session. Your inner talk is the vibration. All right. The vibration attracts a result. Okay. So if your self talk is, I'm not ready, I'm always messed up, I'm too late, it's too much, I'm not enough, right? Then your vibration is rooted in fear and scarcity, you guys, not enoughness. All right. And that's the magnet that shapes your momentum. That's the magnet that shapes your decisions in your relationships. And as a result, this is when and as a and shapes your relationships in your results. Okay. So this vibration is shaping the results that you're going to receive, right? The cause and effect law. All right. So this is why you need to know it's not just about thinking positive thoughts, you guys, right? It's about cultivating an inner alignment so that your energy matches, right, your vision. I know that a lot of us say like no like, oh, I want to be around positivity all the time, and and it's like, are you performing that positivity? Because on the inside, so I'm gonna give you an example of what this performative positivity looks like. So, somebody comes over and just say they vibing low, right? So just say that they're like, yeah, did you watch the news? Like all of this stuff is happening and all of that, right? And so you say, right, you want the positive, and so you like, listen, don't come over here with that. You know what I mean? We on positive vibes over here, right? You say that out loud, but on the inside, what you're vibrating is irritation with this person, right? Judgment. Like they always coming over here talking all that low vibration stuff. Guess what you just did? You just dropped to their level though. Because even though your words said positivity out here, like we're all positive and we don't watch the news over here, the judgments, the inner critic that you have about that experience is the vibration that you're giving off, right? So you can say one thing, but in your mind, like the resentment that may be said, the judgment that you may have about that situation, all of that, that's the law of vibration. And a lot of us are performing with our words and we assume we know better. But then at the end of the day, the way we're moving energetically is still in resentment, it's still in judgment, it's still in fear, right? It's still in scarcity and those type of things. And so we're still vibrating low, even though our words seem high and polished and well. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? If that makes sense, put a two in the chat. All right. All right. So your vibration is still rooted in fear and scarcity, right? And I want you to know this, that the law of vibration is the soil, okay? The law of attraction is the harvest, all right? But your inner voice is the seed. It's the thing that's going to grow. All right. So if you want to manifest with intention, then you have to speak, think, and believe, right, in harmony with who you truly are. All right. Not who you've been taught to be. All right. And not from this old programming. Right. And when I say who you've been taught to be, that's also the resentment. That's also the unforgiveness. That's also the distrusting you, because all of those elements of you were taught that, right? Somebody hurt you and you were taught to have resentment because of a consequence of that exchange. All right. So that's a learned behavior. When you came into the world and in your original state, guess what? You were loving, you were giving, you were kind, right? You were curious, right? So when I say what you've been taught, sometimes it's as a consequence of life happening, you started to change, right? To protect yourself. And that's okay, right? That is what that season of your life was created to do, to protect you. But as an adult, right? And as an adult, you get the opportunity to really change that vibration, to really wash away this residue, to really align on the inside. And again, if you need assistance with that, you can join Project Life. You can get into one of my programs, right? You can take the emotional intelligence class so you can do an inventory of your thoughts. Okay. All right. So again, the law of vibration is the energetic foundation for every universal law, and it states that everything is energy, and that energy is a constant state of vibration. All right. So your thoughts, your emotions, your words, your body, your vision, everything you think, say, feel, and do emits a frequency, you guys. And that frequency determines what you attract. All right. How you perceive life, and even how safe your goals feel to your nervous system. All right. So you don't attract what you want, you actually attract what you are in alignment with. What you are in alignment with, you guys. Why does this law matter to goals and vision? Because it is the internal because if your internal vibration, which is your self-talk, your emotional state, and your belief system, right, don't match your vision, your goals will either feel emotionally heavy, all right, trigger fear, shame, and self doubt, or they'll never get traction because your subconscious doesn't feel safe carrying them. All right. So the energy in which you pursue your goals is just as important as the goals yourself, you guys. Right? The energy in which you pursue your goals is just as important as the goals themselves. All right? Because here's the thing: you could have two people that have the same goals. So let's say these two people want to launch a business, they probably want to heal a relationship, or they probably even want to shift their lifestyle. All right, one person approaches it from fear, doubt, and people pleasing. All right. I hope that this proves I'm enough. Right. If I get this right, maybe they'll see me. Okay. I can't mess up. This is my last shot. Right. That is the energy or the intention in which they're moving. Right. This is a low vibrating, right? Because it's low trust, it's a lot of anxiety around it, and it's some external validation, right? As a result, this individual may experience burnout, they may experience inconsistency, and they may even self sabotage. All right. All right. But the other person with the same goals, right? They move in self trust, they move in alignment and clarity, right? So their inner talk is like, this vision is an extension of my truth. All right. I'm creating from freedom, not fear. All right. I don't need to earn this. I got to embody it. Right. I don't get to earn this. I'm sorry. I get to embody it. Right. This is an experience I get to embody as I'm living here in this earth, right? I don't have to earn love. It is an experience that I get to embody, right? While I'm here. I don't have to earn friendships, right? That's an experience that I get to embody while I'm experiencing this thing called life, okay? Right? I don't have to earn my worth, right? That's an experience that was given to me that I get to activate and embody while I'm here living in this earth. Listen, that vibration is rooted in groundedness, it's rooted in empowerment, and it's rooted in abundance, right? And the results that you'll tend to see is momentum, right? Peace, right? And magnetism. All right. Magnetism, you'll start to attract, right? Same goals, just a different vibration. And with different vibrations, you guys, we get totally different experiences. We get totally different experiences. Why this is crucial for you to know, because many times we say the right affirmations, we set the right goals, we do the right routines, but the vibration is still rooted in doubt, improving, and shame, and comparison, and not enoughness. All right. Right. It's still rooted in these very low vibrating energies, right? So the law of vibration really invites you to really check the emotional energy behind the action, right? Is this being created from truth, or is this being created from fear of being left behind? All right. And this is why I say again, we have to get back into our relationship with our heart. A long time ago, I showed you guys the emotional scales, right? And I said that a lot of people talk about love, a lot of people talk about love and things like that. I showed you guys this diagram, right? This diagram, which is the the emotional scales. And I say that a lot of people talk about love up here, right? Like I love this person. I'm, I'm in love and all of that, married and all of that. But truly, right, a lot of people are down here at desire. No, you desire the person, right? You desire the thing, right? And a lot of us are in desire. And how do I know that? Because either you're fearful of going after the thing you desire, or when you don't get what you desire, you get angry. Okay, and anger is truly like the first outwardly expressed vibrational emotion. Okay, but a lot of us are down. When I say these lower emotions, a lot of people are doing things from these lower emotions like shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, right? Desire, right? And when I say desire, it's truly because you desire this. You desire to want to be connected. You desire to want this thing. And a part of that desire is to what? To come back, to fill you up. All right. I desire wealth because it will do what? Dot dot dot. I desire this because it will do what? Dot dot dot. Okay. So I encourage people a lot of times to get angry, and not angry in the sense of, you know, not angry in this, but anger has two sides to it. The other side is passion, right? Become so passionate about your life that you are angry, right? You're mad enough to invent. Listen, I'm mad because I know that I have something to give to this world. I know I have something to give to this life. I know I got something to experience. And I'm so passionate about that that I'm going to do something about it, right? So a lot of us are angry, but even our relationship with anger has been what? It has been stripped away from us because we judge anger as something bad, right? When really anger is the first outwardly expressed vibrational emotion. And it's not the anger, it's what we do with it. And when we can turn that anger into passion, right? And then we can stand proudly and boldly in our thing, and we can become courageous, and then we can neutralize ourselves, right? Become very neutral, where we're not judgmental, and then we become willing. That's really accepting life for how it's coming, right? And then we become willing to and willing is just not rejective, right? Just not resistant. And then we can start accepting, and then we can start reasoning. And then when we can vibrate at those levels, right, we can actually admit love, and as you see on the far right hand side, these are expansive emotions, which is why when you see people who are very loving, right? Like, they that's an emotion that they give, right? It's not something that they're seeking back. They're not seeking a person to love them. Love is actually an outwardly expressed emotion. All right. So listen, the law of vibration assumes that your self talk isn't just background noise, you guys. It's the frequency. It's the frequency your future is being built on. Okay. So if you speak with love, if you speak with trust, if you speak with grace, right, your goals become an extension of that piece, all right, or of your piece. If you speak, though, with doubt, with pressure, and with judgment, then your goals become an expression of what? Of your anxiety, right? Of your anxiety. All right. This is not to make you feel bad. It's just to say a lot of us in our heart space, we still have a lot of cleaning up to do, a lot of healing to do, because we still have a lot of fears. We have a lot of judgments. We have a lot of unforgiveness. Okay, we got the PowerPoint presentation going. He's so funny, my brother. He's so funny. Yes, we got the PowerPoint presentation now because I wanted to introduce that graph to you guys. Okay. Um, so a lot of times we're carrying these low vibrational emotions, and we're acting right in this high vibrational state, like we're happy and we're joyful and things like that, and people perceive us up like that, right? But there's a disconnect and this ease between who we are, right, what we're doing, and how we're showing up. Okay. Okay. Or how we're showing up and what we're saying to ourselves, right, when we're by ourselves. All right. And this is okay. It just needs to be reconciled. It just needs to be reconciled. And we just need to dig a little deeper, right, and get some discovery going on so that we can what? Become more in alignment so that we can start just experiencing life more fully. All right. All right. Because why? Because you are the strategist, and the energy you hold is a signal for your future response, for your future to respond to. Right? You can't hustle your way out of a low vibration, you guys. You can't hustle your way out of that. This one for the high performers, the people who want to achieve, the over functioning people, right? You've been taught that doing more, you've been taught to do more when you feel off. All right. You've been taught to do more when you feel off. But here's the thing. Um, you've been taught to build more strategy, to add more tasks, to push more harder, to overcompensate, right? But this law of vibration says it's not about doing more, it's about being different. Okay, it's about being different. If your vibration is fear, doubt, or unworthiness, right? No amount of strategy will create peace, right? Your inner talk must align with your intention. Otherwise, your efforts become a form of avoidance, right? So you're avoiding these lower vibrational feelings, right? Listen, emotions is energy, and energy is always setting the atmosphere. So we know that life, I talk about life, that life acronym, life lessons, elevating life, right? But this coin of life is love of self, interactions with others, focus, and what energy. And I took emotions under energy because emotions are energy. They are energy in what? Emotion. All right. So emotions isn't weakness, you guys. It's your guidance. It's guidance. And each emotional state emits a frequency. And so it's so important for you to heal. It's so important for you to heal because each one of those emotions is emitting a frequency, right? So guilt has a low frequency and it says, I don't deserve this, right? I feel bad, right? That's a low vibrating emotion. Shame lowers vision, right? It says, I'm not enough. And shame is such a internal low vibrating emotion that it makes people hide. You know what I mean? It makes people shrink. All right, right. But joy, but gratitude and peace, right? These are high vibrational things that allow your vision to grow with ease, not under pressure. All right. So your emotional state is the soil. Is the soil your goals are planted in. Okay. And if you're planting your goals or your actions or your beliefs into an emotional soil that's low vibrating, then the harvest won't be there. And then you're wondering why, right? Because the law of a cause and effect is going to come in, right? You have this low vibration. You're resentful. You're scared, right? You have some shame and all that stuff. It's okay. We just need to work on it, right? We just need to nourish it, right? We need to nourish it so that these seeds and these experiences that you want, we can get back into balance. All right. All right. You have to stop. Emotions are our birthright. Yes. Yes. Yes, Pep. Right. So you need to really stop planting bold dreams in soil that's so in ground soaked in fear. All right. So you have to stop planting these bold dreams, right, in ground that's soaked in fear. And that's why nothing is taking root. That's why nothing is taking root and being sustained in your life because of this law of vibration, right? So it gets deeper than just the self care, it gets deeper than just the stuff that we're doing in our physical world. It's about this emotional place that is vibrating either very, very low, right? Or so much so that you can feel a person's presence, right? Because they're vibrating, right, in such a way that's comforting, that's peace, that's reassuring, right? Right? And that's good soil to plant a seed in, all right? Because you can't outperform the way you speak to yourself, all right? This is the core truth of self validation Friday, right? If your inner talk is low frequency, right, your vision will always feel emotionally expensive, right? You may achieve the goal. I'm not saying that. You may achieve the goal, but you won't be able to hold on to it. All right. Or once you achieve it, then it won't be as fulfilling. Why? Because the self talk underneath it doesn't feel safe receiving what you say you wanted, right? Because every time you get the thing you want, the self talk is pulling it apart. It's judging it, right? I always say, like, the same job that was a blessing, it can't be a curse now, right? The same relationship that you boasted and bragged about, like, now you got a whole different conversation about that same experience, right? What changed? Right? Did you find out new information? You found that new information. Now, it doesn't mean that that wasn't always there. Okay. Right. So, how can we still keep the gratitude and learn the lesson as you were getting new information? What did that reveal for you? You don't have to judge the person as bad. You don't have to hold resentment against the person, right? What did that reveal about you? Maybe you need patience. Maybe instead of 3 months, maybe you need to date for 6 months or a year. Maybe you need to understand what your pattern is, right? Do you fall into relationships either at a job or with people, right? Do you fall into relationships too quick, right? And you don't get all the data that you need before you make decisions, right? Maybe you're making decisions off of what you feel like you should do and not really what you want to do. So people are more influenced in how you step up and you're trusting that. And then when they show up differently, now you feel violated, right? It's so many things, so much data that we can take from these experiences that can help us shift our vibration, that can help us heal, right? When we go to know ourselves. But instead, what we do is we use those experiences to support the low vibration, the unforgiveness, the anxiousness, the fear, the reason why we are not doing something, the reason why we are not trusting, the reason why we are not loving, the reason why we are not forgiving, right? Because we keep meeting people that validates that. And I'm saying you're going to keep meeting those people because that's the vibration. That's the universal law. All right. So this emotional misalignment keeps you building from burnout, craving approval, or abandoning your vision. Okay, or branding your vision. Again, I talked about vision yesterday. Vision don't have to be this big old vision. It could be wanting to communicate, wanting to connect, wanting your mate to stay in the kitchen while you cook, wanting to be seen when you get in the house, wanting to sit down and talk about your day with your mate, wanting to just connect on a deeper level with people. But if you're not vibrating that, it is going to be very difficult to do that. All right. But once you rise your vibration, by validating yourself daily, this will shift the container for you guys, okay? Because you're always broadcasting, even in your silence. You're always broadcasting, even in your silence. So there's there, even when you're not saying anything, even when you're not saying anything, anything to yourself out loud, even when you're not saying anything to yourself out loud, guess what? You're broadcasting energy. You're broadcasting energy in in your body language, in your emotional reaction, right? In the way you procrastinate or in the way you perfectionalize, right? So even if your mouth say, I believe in this vision, right? If your vibration is saying I'm not ready, then the results will reflect your vibration, not your declaration, you guys, not your declaration. Listen, the energy you give to yourself is the blueprint your future will follow. All right. So speak to yourself like someone whose vision is already real. See yourself connecting with your mates. See yourself laughing with your friends. See yourself hugging. See yourself in intimate relationships because that's the law of what? Polarity. If you don't have it and in some way you have some emotions about it, guess what? That means it exists. If you've been rejected, then that means that there is a connection, right? That was the law on Wednesday. Okay, and this is how these laws tie into each other. So if you have deemed that it's not true, then you got to know that it is, right? Just for you to deem that this specific thing is not true. All right, it is evidence that it is, and start to visualize that and then activate it. Get the assistance that you need to activate it. Okay. All right. So here's our heart check in. All right. What is one dream that you've delayed? Not because you lack the skills, but because of the way you talk to yourself. All right, but because of the way you talk to yourself. All right, and what would shift if that inner voice really matched your divine identity? Right, if your inner voice really matched your divine identity. And I say that because we know that divinity means the having the ability to transcend what any limitation, right? So what if your inner voice matched that? All right. Because listen, the law of vibration really teaches that everything you speak has a frequency. Your self talk either expands your vision or it shuts it down, you guys. The energy you speak will become the atmosphere in your life. Okay. If your goals are shaped by fear, okay, you'll chase what looks impressive. You'll chase what looks impressive. If it's shaped by truth, though, you'll pursue what's aligned. All right. The emotional toil of chasing approval is too high. The emotional that you feel from chasing approval is too high. But when your goals reflect your identity and not your insecurity, you guys, you start to move in peace. You start to move with ease. Not that it's tough, not that it's not tough, not that it's not difficult, but you start to move a little differently. All right. So self validation isn't hype, you guys, it's healing. It's true healing. It's where we need the most healing. Okay. And it's how you return to yourself after years of outsourcing your worth, right? Your enoughness. Okay. All right. One client told me once I started speaking to myself like I already trusted, once I started speaking to myself like I was already trusted, I stopped needing someone else to validate my vision. All right. Studies in cognitive behavior therapy, right, really show that affirming identity based self talk leads to more sustained motivation, resilience, and follow through. All right. You don't need another plan, you guys. You just need to believe in the power of your presence, right? In this voice, because you are the strategist. Okay. You are the strategist. So we know that, put a heart in the chat if that makes sense. Okay. So we know that the it and stop it, right, is for the inner critic, and the inner critic, is for the it factor. And I talk about a couple of it factors. Today's it factor is going to be the inner critic and self talk, right? But we know that there's an it factor, right? The it factor is it, right? How do I become it? The it factor of my life, right? And the way we become the it factor of our lives is by truly honing in to this inner talk, right? This inner critic and this self talk, right? Because the most powerful force in your because this is the most powerful voice in your vision journey. It either aligns your actions or it sabotages them in silence. All right. So the way you speak to yourself determines the pace, and the peace of your progress. All right. Your inner critic is a vibration. All right. Your inner critic is a vibration. The inner critic is not just a thought, it's a tone, it's a frequency, it's a vibe. All right. It's an energetic undercurrent of you're not ready yet. It's the energetic undercurrent of they'll find out you're not enough, right? You should have done more by now, right? Why bother? You always mess it up, right? These aren't just limiting belief, you guys. They are low frequency broadcast that is keeping your goals stuck in an emotional quicksand. All right. It's keeping your goals stuck in emotional quicksand. All right. But the law of vibration teaches whatever energy you embody consistently becomes what you live. All right. Whatever energy you embody consistently becomes what you live. So if your self talk is vibrating in shame or self doubt or rejection, or fear of rejection, guess what? No matter how good your goals look on paper, right, they'll always feel hard to hold in your spirit. They'll be always feel hard to accomplish. And again, this is why we need to go heal that part of us. This is why we need to go become aware of this part of us, these wounds, right, so that we can lift our frequency, right? So this is not woo woo conversation. They all work together. It all works together, you guys. Listen, self talk sets the frequency for what you receive. All right. So let's say your vision is aligned, but your inner voice is saying, I don't know enough. I'm not like them. It's too late for me. I'm too much, right? Your vibration will repel opportunities, relationships, the confidence that you want, and the peace that you seek. Not because they're not meant for you, not because these things are not meant for you guys. It's because your inner vibration says, I'm not available to receive it. I'm not available to receive it. You don't just speak to your vision, you guys. You speak it into existence through your energy. All right, through your energy. So because the inner critic isn't just the I want you to know that the inner critic isn't just me, right? It's misaligned. It's a misalignment, right? So it's important to remember that the inner critic isn't always um loud or aggressive, sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it's subtle. It's subtle in the hesitation. It's subtle in the overthinking, in the over explaining, in the procrastination, right? All of these are energetic leaks, right? And so this law of vibration really reminds us that every time you shrink yourself, you really shift your vibration downward, right? And your future responds to that tone. All right. So every time you shrink, you're creating an effect in the future that's going to respond to that tone. So transforming your self-talk isn't like about hype or toxic positivity, right? It's really about speaking in a frequency that really feels like safety, that feels like clarity, and that feels like truth. All right. Right. That's where your if factor lives, and that's where your divine alignment really flows. All right. All right. The inner critic lives from your past, right? But your vision lives in the present moment. I talked about this yesterday. Okay. The inner critic is the conditioned part of you. It's the historical part of you, right? Uh it's not the prophetic part of you. All right. The prophetic part of you is the part that speaks life, right? That speaks things into existence, right? With the divinity that's within you, right? So it speaks. So the inner critic, it's the conditioned historic part of you, and it speaks from what hurt you, what scared you, what disappointed you, and what broke you. All right, and what won't and what didn't work before. All right, but your vision is vibrational, right? It speaks now, and it speaks from where who you're becoming. It speaks now, and it speaks to who you're becoming. And if the inner voice is still narrating from these old wounds, right, it it will always doubt the version of you that's trying to grow. All right, it will always doubt the version of you that is trying to grow. And that's why I say this inner critic is a relationship that you're going to have for the rest of your life. All right. But when I know, like, oh, that's my inner critic, that's the old part of me, right? And especially if I know that I've experienced some wounds, I can just own that. I don't have to shame that. I don't have to judge that, right? And I don't have to identify that. I don't have to identify with that, right? Because I know that that's a part of my experience. So when this inner critic comes in, I can know that that's a voice of the conditioned me. I can know that that's my nervous system, right? But this is the power of being in the present. But because I know that there's this law of vibration that speaks from the now and speaks to who I'm becoming, then I can change my inner dialogue, right? To not narrate from these wounds, but to really narrate from the person that I'm becoming and the truth and the divinity in me. All right. Listen, you're not crazy for doubting yourself, right? You're just listening to a version of you that hasn't caught up with your growth. All right. All right. You're just listening to a version of you that hasn't caught up with your growth. And the inner critic isn't just a thought pattern, you guys. I want to remind you that it's a nervous system pattern. It's a nervous system pattern, right? That you're not enough voice, that's not just a mindset, it's a memory stored in the body. Remember, we talked about those neuropeptides, right? It's a memory stored in the body. So when you try to dream big and show up with power or set boundaries, guess what? This vibration of this inner critic is actually a safety response. It's repelling it. It's repelling it because of the emotion, because of fear. Fear is the repelling. Shame is the repelling, you know? So, oh, that's good. So if you look at fear, shame, and these little guilt, if you look at those emotions as repellents, right? As like I don't know if you all went bingo before, but there used to be this wand, right? When I used to go with my grandmother, it was this wand and it could pick up the chips, right? And so she would take it and she would click it over the board and it would like pick up all of the bingo chips, right? So that is the magnetic, right? So whatever that wand was given, it was able to pull these chips. All right. So let's say that those chips on this bingo board is the things that you desire in your life. All right. Healthy relationships, intimate connection, peace, joy, all of that. Right. Now, the wand is you. That's the law of vibration. All right. Now, the backside of that wand, though, if you put it on there, it wouldn't pick up anything. Why? Because here's the thing, those type of emotions, they repel, right? So it's like putting two magnets together. And you know, when you can put them together and they snap, and then you can put them together and you can feel like it's hard for them to even join. So when I'm encouraging you to heal that heart, to let go of the resentment, to become forgiven, to start to trust again, to love again. It's not for the other person. It's so that you can attract the chips, so that you can attract the coins for your experience on this life. Okay? Because those emotions are repelling those things. So it's not that they're not coming into your life. It's just that you don't have a vibrational match for them, so they can't stay. They don't stay, right? And then it only, when they don't stay, then you go into the, well, maybe I wasn't enough. Well, maybe I need to do more. Well, maybe I need to be more. You staying at the same vibrational currency, right? That attracted this thing that you want, but you didn't change when that thing left. It wasn't a reminder that, oh, I want that experience. Now, who do I need to be to make sure that that stays with me? Because it's a reason why I dipped in and dipped back out, right? Maybe it was here to show me that, okay, if you want this experience, maybe I need to work on how I communicate. Maybe I need to open my heart more. Maybe I need to release some old pain. If this person reminded me of an old relationship or some fears, maybe I need to work on that. Maybe this thing came into my life, either it's a relationship or an opportunity or a career or something like that, to mirror for me what I needed to work on. So I experienced it enough to taste it, to desire it, like an appetizer, or like, you walk through Sam's and you get the little treats and they give them to you so you can eat it, right? So you can buy the thing, right? So maybe this experience came into my life long enough for me to experience it enough to see, okay, was that good enough? Did I like that experience enough to do something about it, to change this vibration, to release some stuff? And what did it mirror for me? Right? What came up in me when that person or that experience was in my life, right? What came up for me when those things were in my life, right? And now, well, who do I need to go to? What do I need to do to fix that, right? Or to mend that, all right? Because we ain't fixing nothing. We not broken. We just need to reveal and activate some things, all right, and move some things out the way and change some stories, all right, all right. Because the inner critic again isn't just a thought pattern, you guys. It's your nervous system, right? And it's the information stored in your body, and when that stuff stores in your body, right, it regulates, so it either repels, right, or it attracts, all right. So to shift your inner voice, you just you don't just need new words, you guys. You need new embodied experiences to really to have the trust, the safety, and the alignment. And again, that's why something like the coaching labs is there, so you can experience what it feels like to talk to people that connect, that understand you, right? So your body can know that it actually exists. All right. All right. Because low vibration self talk feels familiar, but it's not true. All right. It's not true. One of the biggest lies that your inner critic tells you, because one of the biggest lies that the inner critic tells is that because I've always thought this, it must be real, and that's just not true, right? But repetition doesn't equal truth. So because you've always thought that, it doesn't mean that it's true. Okay, that equals conditioning. So when you introduce the law of vibration, right, to your life, you will see that some of your low vibrating thoughts aren't true. They were just um they were just well practiced. They were just well practiced. Okay. All right. So your inner voice trains others. And the last thing is that your inner voice really trains others on how to treat you. All right. Yes. Yes. It trains others on how to treat you. So when you consistently second guess, downplay, or over explain yourself in your head, your unconsciously, it unconsciously teaches others to overstep your boundaries, undervalue your presence, and expect you to prove your worth. All right. So, one of the most sacred acts of alignment is to speak to yourself in ways that you want to be seen, heard, and respected. All right. And that vibration teaches the room. All right. And expands the room. All right. Because listen, your goals don't need more hype. They need a home inside of you that feels safe, that feels supported, and spoken to with love, okay? Because you Because when you believe yourself, all right, you stop needing other people. You stop needing everyone else to. All right, you stop needing everyone else to. Because when you believe in yourself, you stop needing everyone else to. You guys, all right. Our biblical wisdom for today, about biblical wisdom for today. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me. Our biblical wisdom for today. Listen, death and life is in the power of the tongue. We've seen this one before. Listen, your words create. They don't just reflect how you feel, all right? They shape how you live. So this isn't just about words you speak to each other, you guys. It's about words you speak to yourself silently and consistently, all right? From a vibrational or energetic standpoint, right, this verse is teaching us that your words are creative power, or your words are creative power, all right? And they shape your experiences. They build or they break what you're capable of holding, all right? This isn't um, methodological or method. Okay, I can't say the word, but this isn't that. This is neurological. This is that's the word. If this is neurological, this is emotional, and this is spiritual, you guys. Okay, this is neurological, this is spirit emotional, and this is spiritual. When your inner talk consistently says you're not enough, you'll never get it right. No one cares when you say, no one cares what you have to say, right? You're not just thinking small, you guys, you're vibrating low, right? You're vibrating low. And that frequency shapes how you show up in your relationships, in your work, in your faith, and in your vision. Okay. So this scripture becomes deeply practical, right? Every word you speak to yourself is either feeding your fears or fueling your future, you guys. So the God within you isn't just listening, right? You are creating with your language. So the God within you isn't just listening, you are creating with your language. Okay. That's why your self-talk is a spiritual discipline. All right. That's why your self-talk is a spiritual discipline. Your promise verse, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. All right, listen. This is Proverbs 23:7. These two, the promise in the this promise verse and this principle verse, both of them align so well with this law of vibration, right? So as a man thinketh, so is he, right? Your true identity isn't revealed by what you do, you guys. It is shaped by what you believe internally. All right. So this isn't about surface thoughts, it's about the embodied belief, right? Heart, it heart here doesn't doesn't mean feelings, right? It means the core of your identity. It means your core identity and what you accepted is true. What you've accepted is true. So you become what you consistently believe about yourself. You become what you consistently believe about yourself. And when your inner talk is rooted in shame, when it's rooted in scarcity or comparison, you begin to live out that version of yourself, whether it's accurate or not. So this verse, when you understand through the lens of vibration, it's saying whatever internal story you're rehearsing, you're becoming. Whatever internal story you're rehearsing, you guys, you're becoming. Not because it's true, not because it's true, but because it's what you've been training your nervous system to expect. And that's why in this session, we're not just upgrading our thoughts, you guys, we're really raising your identity frequency. We're really raising your identity frequency, right? We're shifting from I hope I'm enough to I trust that I am ready and aligned for what I desire. I trust that I'm ready and aligned for what I desire. All right. All right. These verses aren't meant to make you fear your words, but they're really meant to one, get you to think about how you talk, right? So that you can so that you can be empowered, right? So you can be empowered to pick up a book, to say affirmations, to get the help, to seek out a therapist, to join Project Life, to do things to really start to transform this inner dialogue. Because if your words can create death, which is limitation, fear, and performance, right? Then they can also create life, which is clarity, trust, freedom, love, and alignment. All right. So the God within you is not waiting for these perfect circumstances, right? It's waiting for you to come into agreement with your truth, right? So when you shift your inner talk, you shift your vibration. And when you shift your vibration, you guys, you shift your life. All right, you shift your life. All right. So Patty Cake said an energetic magnet being we magnetize who we are. Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So I want to ask you, what has your inner voice been creating lately, and does it align with the God's truth about you? All right. All right. And then let's put this into practice. Write down three negative self-talk statements that you've been repeating, right? Rewrite one with the truth that reflects your identity, not your insecurity, and then record yourself reading these truths out loud and try to listen to them daily, you guys. All right. The next one is your journal prompt, right? What would my vision feel like if I believed I was already enough to carry it? All right. What would my vision feel like if I believed I was already enough to carry it? All right. Your affirmation for today, I'm no longer speak from fear, I speak from freedom. All right. And our intention for this day and this weekend is today, I align my words with my worth. All right. I align my words with my worth. And for the next 24 hours, track your inner talk. Every time you notice a self critical thought, pause and reframe it out loud. Speak healing over your life. Okay. And then your call, your challenge, and your charge. Listen, what truth are you ready to speak over your goals? All right, that is the call. The challenge is what self-talk are you releasing this week? And then we already know what the charge is. The charge is to go shape your life one aligned word at a time, one aligned word at a time. Listen, you are the strategy. Your self-talk is sacred. Speak life over your future. Speak life. Speak like your future is listening because guess what? It is. It is. Speak like your future is listening because it is. Patty Cake said, creating a better life is as simple words. Just as he said, let there be light. What light are we creating? Great. That's great. Yes. What light? Just like God said, let there be light. We have to ask ourselves, what light are we creating in our life? And I love that you brought that in because guess what? There was darkness. And this is why we have to be compassionate with ourselves, right? And not judge the darkness. Even God said what? He brought light out of the darkness. And we have that ability too. So the darkness that we're experiencing, this low vibration of shame, of guilt, depression, of these traumas that we've had, that's the darkness. But we have the same power that God said to really bring light into these situations, right? All right. She said, "Oh, I'm going to record the affirmations." Yes, yes, record them. They work too. It's kind of weird at first, but you get used to it. All right. So listen, if this session resonated with you today, okay, you already know to put a fire in the chat. Put a fire in the chat, and let's celebrate our growth together. And if this session really woke up something in you, then that's exactly the type of insight that we explore in those weekly labs. All right. We don't just reflect, right? We reshape. And that is the end of this series. The series for what? For the laws. Okay. So we know that this month we're talking about season control of life with a plan. We talked about um, prioritizing our values last week. This week, we went over those universal laws. The law of belief on Monday it would tie to our stories, the law of expansion on Tuesdays that tie to our triggers, the law of cause, I mean, the law of polarity, which is the obstacles, right? So we know that there's an up and down. So this is how we turn our obstacles and opportunities because we know that by this law, because I've experienced pain, then pleasure is for me. Okay. Okay. And then we talked about the law of cause and effect yesterday, which is the patterns, right? And that if we, how do we implement that? Then we are currently living in the effect of a cause, right? Something that happened to us. And if we want a different effect or a different experience, then we have to do what? We have to cause something different in our life so we can have a different effect. All right. All right. And then today we talked about the law of vibration, right? The law of vibration, which is the foundational law. It's this deep emotional vibration. And I want to ask you, what are you vibrating? What are you vibrating? Okay. All right. What are you vibrating? Listen, if you're ready to go deeper, that growth membership is where we gives you the structure to keep expanding, especially when fears show up, right? Because your vision deserves support, you guys. For the rest of the month, you can get that membership for $47 a month. Listen, I want you to know that if you can shape it in your mind, you guys, you can have it in your life. I love you. I love you. I love you. I will see you on Monday. I will see you on Monday when we start talking about the A in plan, which is action. Which is action. Okay. All right. I love you. I love you. I'll see you at the next life lesson. Till later.